in with... Yes!
As downloadable expansions go, Seed of Evil is the simplest type. It's more of the surprisingly challenging tactics RPG gameplay from last year's Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. Seed of Evil makes a few tweaks and changes to the original formula, but in very safe ways that don't do much to evolve the original gameplay in interesting ways. It holds up well though. Picking up where Road to Eden left off, Seed of Evil advances the overarching Mutant Year Zero story, but quickly pivots to a new, self-contained mystery. The quick, jerky nature in which it weasels out of Road to Eden's cliffhanger ending is jarring, but the new story ultimately makes good on it, creating some new mystique in a world you've already explored. This short expansion, which took about 6 hours to complete, distinguishes itself from the original with 8 or 9 new snowy areas. They vary enough to keep things interesting while you're pushing through the campaign, but at the same time, the very familiar blend of overgrown nature and derelict technology borders on repetitive after a while. Seed of Evil spreads small gameplay changes throughout Mutant Year Zero's mechanics, including new weapons and upgradable character abilities to further your party's growth. On the other side, new and more powerful enemies bring new challenges. While these changes present new ideas that could add new obstacles and opportunities in battle, very few actually have the punch to make you alter how you see and approach each fight, especially since veteran players already know what works. Luckily, it's surprisingly easy to return to Mutant Year Zero, even if you haven't touched it since last year. Jumping back into the expansion more than 6 months after the fact was like riding a bike. That's at least partially because so little has changed, and progression still falls just as flat in Seed of Evil. The new upgrades for each character's special abilities improve their strength, but fail to add any new functionality or twists, so the fundamental choices over whether to use one attack over another remains unchanged. Likewise, the new weapons and upgrade items didn't do much to open up new tactical options. The same goes for the new enemies, called pod ghouls, who share some of the mutant powers your team uses. Facing gangs of enemies who all have these specific powers definitely requires you to change your approach, but they rarely use those powers in novel or unexpected ways, so fights remain predictable. At least the challenge is amped up a notch or two, making you work for each victory. All of your enemies have at least a few levels on you, and many battles are extremely long, pitting you against multiple waves of bad guys. Picking the right place to start an attack and giving yourself a clear path to advance is more essential than ever. The most effective addition is the new member of your party, Big Con. Since Seed of Evil is post-campaign content, Big Con appropriately feels more powerful than your other party members. He has a pair of strong special moves, fiery vomit breath, and a wide-reaching ground pound attack, and he proves to be a valuable all-around fighter. It's kind of a bummer that this weird character doesn't have much to add to the story, but his abilities may push you to mix up the team you use to finish Road to Eden. That's something of an achievement given how easy it is to find your optimal team and stick with it. Mutant Year Zero Seed of Evil is more Mutant Year Zero, plain and simple. Though most of its attempts to evolve the mechanics and systems don't reinvent the wheel, planning and plowing through enemies remains satisfying. And it's hard to complain about a fire-breathing moose companion. Before you pick up Seed of Evil, go check with our review of the main game, Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. You can find more strategy and tactics in our reviews of Total War 3 Kingdoms and Imperator Rome. And for everything else, keep watching IGN.